CDC now saying no more masks for vaccinated Americans, both indoors and outdoors, even in crowds. There are exceptions: buses, planes, and hospitals. President Biden great milestone, a great day for America, thanking Americans for getting us to this point, pointing to the vaccinations. The president saying Americans can now do what they're known for. They can smile at one another. He and the vice president doing just that today, walking back into the White House together without masks, without social distancing. The CDC director, Dr. Michelle Walensky, making the point today that this is based on science. More data emerging in just the last week that vaccinations work against the variants. 12 to 50-year-olds can now get the vaccine, and tonight more than 152 million adults have received at least one dose. That's nearly 59% of adults, and about one-third now of all Americans. But there were immediate questions: if you're fully vaccinated, and you still transmit the virus to others without knowing? And if you're in the job or back at work, how do you know if someone near you has been vaccinated or not? And does that pose a risk? Dr. Ben Ashton answering those questions in just a moment. We have it all covered for you tonight. Beginning with ABC's Whit Johnson, right here in New York.
Tonight, a giant step closer to normal life for millions of Americans. President Biden late today in the Rose Garden.
It's a great milestone, great day. It's been made possible by the extraordinary success we had in vaccinating so many Americans so quickly.
The president pointing to 250 million shots in 114 days.
Fully vaccinated people are at a
we did what we know this former president did has got to be investigated criminally.
Meanwhile, in
parents and next this year, Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president, staged by his rivals in Hamas, is trying to reflect the movement. No peace, security, stability, he said, while Jerusalem is on. In Sderot, the Israeli town closest to Gaza, a 5-year-old boy was killed by rocket in his building. His neighbors and his
It's very, very difficult to live under these circumstances. And the government should wipe out Gaza once and for all.
Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, went to see troops running the Iron Dome anti-missile defenses. He said it will take time, but Israel will decisively respond. It is a modest warning. He will need more to tell Israelis than that before orders can end. The prime minister is also struggling to save his job. Right across Israel and the occupied territories this week, there is serious violence. This was the town of Hebron last night on the occupied West Bank. Young Palestinians and Israelis confronting each other. Another generation cursed by the failures of its leaders.
Jeremy Byrne reporting there on an escalating situation. Well, every day India is recording nearly as many COVID-19 cases as every other country in the world put together. In the past 24 hours, more than 4,000 people have died from the virus in India. Hospitals in many parts of the country are being overrun. One of the states seeing the most dramatic surges is West Bengal, governed by a regional political party. The state's capital, Kolkata, Yogaton Amira reports. 1,000 miles from here. That's like regional record surge nearly 80 times in the past 2 months. People here are scared, but they have to work to live. And this is the cost. India's cancer problem has to be defined. People are in very stressed to get this again. All the things, hundreds are
Diana, how does American democracy function when major elements of one political party are operating in an alternate reality?
And for whatever reason, maybe as Dr. Walensky said, you're immunocompromised and the vaccine didn't take well enough, and you stumble across somebody who doesn't have a mask. Now, is that person vaccinated, or are they perhaps unvaccinated, and they could possibly say everybody still wears the mask in certain situations, like a crowded bus.
Come on. Come on. Let's see if it works. Come on. Come on.
It is your constitutional right. It's the right everyone should have.
Please work,
It is a right,
please.
as you saw tonight.
Hi, Rabbi Shapiro.
Hello, is that Cheryl?
Hello.
Ms.
On the
Kovitz?
phone.
Ms. Kovitz, how are you?
Hi. Hi. How are you doing this evening?
Good, thank you.
Wonderful.
And you? How are you?
Okay. Let me see now.
Oh,
Ms. Shapiro. Cute.
Ms. Kovitz, I have a question.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
I have a question for you.
Pardon?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
And that is, where in Richmond did you live?
A recent survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation revealed that only 3 in 10 parents with children ages 12 to 15 said they would get their child vaccinated as soon as possible.
Did you live in Richmond, Virginia?
Rabbi,
Yes.
Cheryl she gets disconnected a couple times a night.
Cheryl did? Okay.
Yeah, so she'll be back.
She'll be back. She will return, I'm sure. There she
I
is.
can make you co-host.
Thank you. If you would, I'd be grateful.
Your co-host. My co-host. So you have your PowerPoint, so I can close the one on my computer then?
We are good to go. Exactly.
I'm closing it now. All right, so I'll just handle people coming in and out of the meeting for you.
That's fine. And if I need to as well, I'll be happy to.
I'm fine.
I've done this too much, I'm afraid.
Okay.
At any rate, Cheryl Kovitz.
There she is.
How are you? Oh, no, she's frozen. Well,
Yeah, we gotta get her. She'll get back.
For a few minutes here.
here we go, Cheryl.
Jill Metlin will also be joining us, of course. So,
Right.
We shared this program with everyone last night. We had a nice piece with Rabbi Kotak.
Wonderful.
So, see what our turnout is.
Had I known, I would have invited Rabbi Kotak.
Oh, really?
I'd be delighted. I've never met. What's his first name?
I think it's Larry.
Oh, okay. No, I've never
Very,
met him.
very bright man.
Wonderful.
A historian, actually.
Ah, I would have even been more interested.
Yeah.
But and when does the new rabbi come, and when?
Rabbi Maya Glasser will be in July 1.
Okay.
We're very excited.
Very nice.
And
Where has he been before?
she is out of New Jersey.
Oh, do you know where?
No, I don't. Cheryl may. I mean, I don't recall, but
Right.
a wonderful lady, great husband, and we're all very excited.
That's great. I'm excited for you.
Thanks. So, yeah, so people will come late. You're good just to relax?
In Hebrew, we say Lafi Sha'on HaYehudim, according to Jewish time.
Okay.
And that's right. However, I'll begin whenever you say.
Well, I would love it if we could stay on time, start at 7.
That's also fine.
Thank you.
You know what? I'm always torn between waiting for people, but on the other hand, we have to respect the people who made the effort to be there on time.
Correct.
And there is also
we often go a little long.
That's fine.
And that depends on how the discussion progresses. So you play it by ear at the end.
That's perfectly all right. There's Cheryl. Are you going to admit her? Uh, and that's perfectly all right. I am flexible as far as that's concerned, and delighted to show respect to those people who came on time. There we are. Cheryl, are you with us?
Okay. I'm back, but I'll know in a moment or so if it's going to stay on or if it's going to flash off again.
Do you need to stand on a chair? We used to say stand on a chair so you get a better signal.
Oh, that's it. So it's in my hand here.
Right.
Wondering. Oh, you probably hear my barking doggies.
I do.
Come on, puppies. Oh boy, oh boy. So you were asking me a question.
Yeah, on behalf of, not only on my own behalf, but on behalf of my wife, Robin, who admires you very much for your understanding of hospitality. And we want to know where in Richmond, Virginia, you lived at one time.
Oh, okay. In Richmond.
And when did you live in Richmond, Virginia?
Oh gosh, let me see now. How many years ago was that? I moved from let's see, 1994 into Richmond from Massachusetts, and lived there for I think about eight years, maybe 10 years at the most.
Ending when? Or are you gone? There you are. And when did you leave Richmond?
I'm sorry?
What year did you leave Richmond?
I think it was, let's see, I was there 8 or 10 years. So if I got there in 1994, so we're looking at another 10 years to that. So
okay,
might have
so
been 8 years.
In your final years, I was the rabbi of Congregation Oratid out on Parham Road.
Parham Road, yes, in the octagon-shaped synagogue.
That's the one. That's the one. Where did you live?
Yes. Actually, off of Drexel. It was off of Belmont Road. Yeah, Drexelbrook Road was the name of the street.
Was that down closer to downtown? Was that in actually Richmond and not in Rico?
It was actually in Chesterfield County.
Oh, in Chesterfield. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where that was. That off Robius? Was that off Midlothian? Or down by 60 and Hull Street Road, or?
And just go strictly. Oh, it's back again now. Okay. It's going to be doing this. I could either shut it down altogether and just go through my iPhone. Could do it that way.
Whichever you prefer. Whichever works best for you.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Using the iPhone, then I can't see all the different people that are there.
Yeah, I can see you. We can see you holding your iPhone, and I presume you're using a computer camera.
Yeah. Actually, it's my my laptop that's picking up the view.
Right.
Yeah. So it's my iPhone though is it's plugged in, and I'm using it as a hotspot.
Oh, okay. I understand. Have we lost you now, or are you there?
Coming back. That was quick how quick that came back. I wonder what's going on. I've already had it checked out once, so I guess I'll be going back to Office Max again tomorrow to find out why is it in and out like this.
Right. It's a struggle.
It is. It's frustrating when you're not a computer.
Yeah, exactly. You need a 12-year-old.
Yeah, that's true. And in this area, in the area that I'm staying in right now is usually everybody 50s, 60s, and 70s. Might even be a few people that are 80 in here too.
Right.
This is a Flamingo Park. It's an RV park up here off of Lem Turner Road.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Uh-huh.
And you like it? It's good?
As millions of, I shouldn't say millions, hundreds of whether they be motorhomes or recreational vehicles and fifth wheels, which is another term for a travel trailer.
Sure.
So
Have we lost you again? Are you there?
and so I actually had a chance to go kayaking the other day.
What?
I went kayaking.
Oh, did you really? Good for you.
That's an
We
awesome,
have some, we
beautiful
have some
lake.
friends who live off of Crown Point, actually, not far from the Jacksonville Jewish Center, who love to go kayaking.
Oh,
That's why we're here in Florida,
nice.
right?
Yeah. It became, I used to kayak when I was in Massachusetts.
Where did you live
And
in
the Richmond.
Massachusetts? Where did you live in
I lived in
Massachusetts?
Oh, okay, Massachusetts. Let's see now. Let's go back to Shirley Road in Bellingham, Massachusetts.
Bellingham?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bellingham was off of 126, about 16, I think 15 miles from Framingham.
Okay. Birmingham's on Route 9 and not on 20, but more on Route 9, I think.
Pardon?
Framingham and Natick and so on are on Route 9, I believe, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But Bellingham sounds familiar, but can't quite place it. Where are you from originally?
Did she disappear?
She's
I
back.
guess I think, hi, Felice.
Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Rabbi. Good to see you.
Is that
Good seeing you.
Miss Caliestro? Please.
Yes, Felice.
Yes.
Yes.
Please call me Merrill.
I will do that, Merrill.
Don't call me Merrill. I'll call you Felice.
That's a deal. I have to tell you, I was at the Cheryl and I were both at that time when you made that presentation a few years ago. I think it was Sukkot at the River Garden.
Right.
And she has been the queen of Audacious hospitality, and I've been running right behind her because all the things you taught were so good. That's why I'm here.
Thank you, and I hope this won't be too repetitious, but it needs to be said over and over and over
Yes,
again. We
even if
forget
it is, it's wonderful. That's why I'm
I
here.
I am flattered, and yeah, Cheryl is my model actually for Audacious hospitality.
Wow, wow.
She's
Actually, it's funny. I've been trying to call her. Say, Cheryl, guess what's on tonight? Cheryl, you can't miss this. But she doesn't pick up the phone because she's here. So that's good.
Right, exactly. Cheryl was the one who arranged this with me, actually.
Oh.
It looks like I am going to shut down my computer and just go directly through my phone. So it's going in and out times.
So we are forming the Merrill Shapiro fan club. How's that?
I'll be right back.
Wait.
That'll be good.
What are you forming?
The Merrill Shapiro fan club.
No, don't do that.
Okay.
You have it's Rabbi, what's Rabbi, well, the new Rabbi is Glaser? What's a? Glasser. Form the Rabbi Glasser.
Okay, we'll do that too.
I
we already have the Canterbury fan club.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
And that way you'll make everyone feel comfortable and welcome and at home. And
thank you so much.
That's an important thing. I wish your congregation much luck in your relationship with Rabbi Glasser.
Thank you so much.
Where is he from originally? He's from New Jersey, someplace, I understand?
Yes, it's a she. It's Rabbi
right.
Maya Glasser, and she's in New Jersey, but I don't remember exactly where. And I lived in New Jersey, but I still don't remember.
Where did you live in New Jersey?
Are you familiar with Jersey?
A little bit.
I lived in Atlantic City for a while before gambling. My father owned a restaurant there, and it was a 24-hour restaurant, so everybody worked, the whole family. You come to visit, you work.
Okay.
Good.
And would I recognize the name of the street from Monopoly?
Oh, you might, but I'm trying to remember. Yes, Atlantic Boulevard or Atlantic Avenue, something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you refer to that as New Jersey, but since I grew up in Bloomfield, outside of Newark. To me, everything south of Perth Amboy was just somewhere down there in Yiddish they say Jenemsveld. It wasn't the end of the world, but you can see the end. And where's Rabbi Glasser from? I understand she's from New Jersey.
Yes, and I don't remember.
What's
I
her
don't really, yeah.
What's her first name?
Maya.
Yes, thank you.
Maya?
Ella.
Yes.
Ellen. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Felice.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm really, I walk people out to their car because
Wow.
Abraham did.
Yeah,
And
you should be teaching this. You and Cheryl, actually,
oh,
should be the ones teaching this.
and I had a boyfriend, but he decided to go a different way. But he's a sweet guy. And one time he said to me, "Why are you standing outside? You know I'm coming. What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, Abraham greeted his guests outside, and I'm doing it too."
And walked with them on their way. Absolutely. You are a true heir to the tradition of Abraham and Sarah. And you're a wonderful asset.
Thank you. That's so nice.
To say the least.
Thank you.
Hope everybody's healthy and well, and we should be healthy and stay well.
Amen.
And all will be good.
And Ellen, have you and Ellen met? This is a fabulous woman.
I don't know that. I mean, we've now exchanged several emails, but
Right.
I don't know that we've ever met face to face. I'm not sure.
I met you when you were in Coleman a couple years ago.
Okay.
Of that presentation.
Yeah. How's that? Is that better?
That's much better.
Oh, good.
All it says on our screen is 015858, and you all.
Yeah, it comes up that way. I'm not quite sure why.
You actually, if you move your cursor to the upper right-hand corner of the screen, it says 015858. You'll see it says mute, and then you'll see three dots. You see
Move the cursor.
Yes.
There's
To the upper right-hand corner of your your personal screen.
Upper right-hand corner. Okay.
Yeah. And you know what? I can actually write your name in for you if you'd like.
Oh, that's fine.
What is your name? What would you like it to be?
Just Cheryl, Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Uh-huh.
Okay, there we are. It says Cheryl. I didn't know I had that power. Yeah. Now you have to press something to unmute. There you go.
Excellent.
Would you like your camera on?
That would be nice too. Thank you.
Put your camera on, or people come to this so informally.
Wonderful.
I've dealt with a lot of men who aren't really wearing pants when they but it's okay. Since you can't see them from the middle of their chest.
That's so funny.
That could be weird.
Now it says the host has asked you to start your video. So I press OK?
Yes, exactly. Press OK.
Okay. Alrighty. There I am. Cool. Alrighty.
Merrill, where are you from originally?
West Virginia.
West Virginia? Where in West Virginia?
A place called McGraw's, West Virginia, in Wyoming County in the southern part.
In the southern part of Wyoming County?
Uh-huh. McGraw is actually my maiden name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, Cheryl.
My wife, Robin, again, a great admirer of yours, is from Columbus, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And went to school in Athens, Ohio, and knows West Virginia fairly well. And we often schlep back and forth from here and have driven up Route 77 and through the heart, through Beckley, and all that, that's Princeton and Beckley and all those places up to Charleston, and in Richmond, as part of our congregation Oratid, There was Israel Kohler, who for many years was the Reform rabbi in Charleston.
Uh-huh.
And he used to brag that he buried the last Jew in several hundred towns around West Virginia as they used to,
Oh, well,
used to Jewish communities.
in,
And
in Beckley, West Virginia, there was a
yeah,
rabbi. There was a temple, Bethel Temple.
was there? Yeah.
Yes, and Rabbi Isidore Ween.
Oh yeah. Huh.
Yes, had moved from New York along with some of his cousins. The Fink family moved from New York into Beckley, and so they all started businesses.
Ah, okay, that's
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a
Yeah.
common theme. Very good.
Mm-hmm. Isidore Ween, there's actually a story in history on him, how he did so much of what we're doing. We're reaching out to the strangers. That's what he did. He went around to all the different churches, all the different institutions in the community in Beckley, invited people to temple. So
Wonderful.
we had lots of mixed services. And then, of course, he went out to other places and put on programs also. Had a very, very memorable experience meeting him and seeing how he really reached out to people.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
a good story. He understood. There are unfortunately rabbis who do not understand what their role is, but Rabbi Ween clearly understood very well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he sure did.
And that's a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Ellen, if you're listening, whenever you're ready, I'm ready, and we can wait, or we can
All right, let's get
begin.
Jill
Whatever,
on.
whatever you're I am flexible.
Hey,
Hi,
Jill.
Jill.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome, Jill.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for being here.
Please, I'm Merrill. Otherwise, I'll call you Miss Metlin if you'd like. But
No, Jill is fine.
then Merrill. It has to be Merrill.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Jill, would you like to do the presentation, please? Are you in the position to do that?
Do you not have it with you?
I do, but I'm actually on my iPhone since my computer's not really doing what it's supposed to. But I could go ahead and present it anyway. Yes.
Okay, if you
I can
could,
do
that
that.
would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay. All righty. Okay. So is everybody? I can't tell. Does she have every?
Small group, but it is 7, so we like to start on time.
It is 7.
Size does not matter.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Well, thank you, Rabbi Shapiro, for joining us this evening. And of course, with your history of your throughout the many years, of course, you've been a pulpit rabbi for many years. And of course, you've been in, we know, West Virginia, one of our connections there. And then, of course, being a pulpit rabbi, and then, of course, being connected with the Palm Coast area and your St. Augustine Historical Society in there. So you've had some very interesting stories in your lifetime that we're able to talk about. And so we appreciate your being with us. And of course, with this time of the year, and through everything that we're going through, that it's now a time that we're hopeful through this era with Temple. It's a great time to focus on diversity and inclusion and how we welcome the stranger and how we continually welcome those who already know, of course, that we know, and of course, through the time, we always hope that we can continue through this path that we're on. It sort of makes you wonder what brings a person to a particular path in their life. So, but yeah, so that's always a curious thought.
Yeah.
So again, just like to thank you, Rabbi, for joining us tonight. Alrighty. Thank you.
You didn't, to be totally honest and frank, I am honored to be asked, and I'm honored to be asked. I have always been a big partisan of congregational life. And I'm used to noisy sanctuaries, by the way. So the dog barking is not a big. But at least
Yeah,
one of you
but
or
I
I can.
can't hear them.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and mute me.
Okay, let's do
Yeah,
that.
she
Let's
muted.
do that.
Okay, everybody mute unless you're talking,
Well,
please.
by the way, the rest of you do not have to mute, and I'll explain that. But you can mute or unmute; it's entirely up to you. I'll actually refer to that in just a moment, Jill, if you don't mind. So long before there were Jewish centers, long before there were Jewish federations, and long before there was Hadassah and B'nai Zion and all those, and AZA and BBG and the like, there were synagogues. And synagogues are the basic building block of a Jewish community and have been so for, we used to think only 2,000 years, but we have evidence now it's closer to 21 or 2,200 years. And so I congratulate you who are supporters of a synagogue and interested in making a synagogue more hospitable. I suspect I'm preaching to the choir here, and that you are people who already exhibit lots of hospitality. But nonetheless, let's go over some of these things. Actually, I want the opportunity to learn from you, and I'll give you that opportunity. But first, let me share my screen for a second. Through the wizardry of electronics that I don't entirely understand, let's put this these slides up. So I was asked, Cheryl asked me to talk about audacious hospitality. To me, that's welcoming people into your sanctuary. I will note that the Reform movement, and you need to discuss this further with Rabbi Glasser, I'll be happy to help, talks about this kind of, what kind of hospitality, particularly the hospitality of welcoming people who are disabled, welcoming people who are of different races, welcoming people who are of different sexual orientations and so on, and letting them all know that they are welcome within your midst, within our midst as people in a congregation. But I'm going to start at a little bit more simple place. But first, I want to stop for a second and can't fail to recognize what's going on right now
Yes.
at this
Yeah.
moment. Say, Avinu Shebashamayim. I don't expect you to read. You can read this with me if you'd like. That says, Avinu Shebashamayim Sur Yisrael V'Goalo Barech et Medinat Yisrael Reshit Smichat Geulatenu. And you can join me with this if you'd like, given what's happening. Our God in heaven,
Rock and
Redeemer
Redeemer
of
of
Israel,
Israel, bless the state of Israel,
the first
first manifestation of the approach of our redemption. Shield it with
your
your
loving
loving
kindness,
kindness,
envelop
envelop
it
it in your peace,
and
and
bestow
bestow your light and truth upon its leaders,
Leaders,
ministers,
ministers,
ministers, and
and
advisors,
grace them
and
with
grace
and
good,
good
them
counsel.
to
strengthen
Strengthen
the
the
hands
hands
of
of
those
those
who
who
those
defend
defend
our holy
our
land,
holy
who
land,
land,
grant them
them
grant them
deliverance,
deliverance,
and
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 adorn
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 them
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 in a mantle of victory. Ordain
ordain
peace
in
in the
peace in
peace,
land,
the land,
land, and
grant
grant
all
all its
all its
inhabitants,
inhabitants
general happiness.
and happiness.
Manifest yourself in the
Manifest the
splendor of your
splendor of
boldness
wholeness
for
before
the
the
eyes of
eyes of
eyes
all
inhabitants.
inhabitants of your world. And may everyone
Everyone
endowed with
endowed with the soul,
affirm that the Lord, God of
Lord
Israel,
God of Israel,
is sovereign,
sovereign,
Lord's
the
dominion
Lord
is
dominion
absolute.
is absolute.
Amen forevermore.
Amen forevermore.
Thank you. Now, along those lines, you need to know, and if it's too disturbing, gets too disturbing, tell me and I'll turn it off. But my phone is next to my laptop, and it has an app that's tied into the Iron Dome system, and an alarm may go off indicating that rockets are being fired
Wow.
right now. And we've been following that not only all day, but the past several days, of course. But if that's annoying or problematic,
No.
let me know. On the other hand, perhaps we should all need to be aware.
Yes, I think
So
so too.
some of you know that,
Hi, Robin.
yes,
Hi,
exactly.
Robin.
That's my wife,
Hi,
Rob,
Robin.
my best friend,
Yes.
who I am so lucky to have in my life, and so fortunate and so blessed. And we have two daughters, Sarah, who's married to Bill and lives in New York, and Amy, who lives with her four children in Jacksonville, actually now in Orange Park. Now, the
Oh,
only reason I show you these pictures of Sarah and Amy is that Robin and I together raised these two girls through their teenage years. And so, if you want to make me feel most at home and you want me to feel most comfortable, I'll ask that you interrupt me while I'm speaking. So please really feel free,
Got it.
particularly the size of this group, you needn't mute. Uh, the dog is another issue, but you needn't put yourself on mute. And you can, if you have anything you'd like to add, subtract. By the way, because I've had two teenage daughters, if you have anything you want to argue with me about, by all means, I am, you know, just another human being, quite fallible. So this on the right is a man called the Gerer Rebbe. He was the rabbi. He's a long line of rabbis, part of the long line of rabbis that came from the city of Gur, about 100 kilometers south of Warsaw in Poland. He happens to be, if you look at that date that he passed away, 3 June 1948, he happens to have been caught up in the siege of Jerusalem. He was in Jerusalem when it was put under siege in Israel's war for independence. And the reason I want you to know about him is because he said, what does it mean for us to gather as a congregation when we get together as a congregation? And in the end, he said it means to care about one another. You might think we gather as a congregation to pray, but believe me, if you want, you can pray at home. You don't have to come to the synagogue to pray.
no.
We come together as congregations, as a congregation, in order to share in our lives as Jews and to be part of the community Israel, not the community of Israel, but we are a community, we are called Israel, its past, its present, and its future. So once it's told that Gerer Rebbe walked over to one of his students and he tapped him on the shoulder and asked, how is Moshe Yaakov doing? Excuse me. The student shrugged his shoulders. You don't need me to read this. I hate when people read to me what I can read for myself, but I'm going to have to suffer through it anyway. So the student shrugged his shoulders and said, I don't know how Moshe Yaakov is. What, shouted the Rebbe? After all, you recite the same prayers. You study the same texts. You pray under the same roof. You sing the same songs. You serve the same God. And you have no idea whether or not Moshe Yaakov is in good health or whether he needs help or comforting or advice. And so this is the essence of our way of life as Jews. Each of us must share in each other's lives. And that's supposed to say, and never leave anyone alone, either in sorrow or in joy. That runs counter to our belief as Americans that we have private lives. We're all private and we surround ourselves. You'll notice that your parents, your grandparents, perhaps your great grandparents lived in homes, and when they wanted to, they sat out on the front porch. And people came by on the road and the street, on the sidewalk, and chatted. Some of our great grandparents or whomever had a pitcher of lemonade on the porch. And when somebody passed by, we invited them up and we drank and we chatted and so on. This is the kind of life they led. Today, more likely than not, when we sit outside, we sit out in our backyard, separated from our neighbors by a fence or by a hedge or by a tree, and we're looking for privacy. And it's a great loss. By the way, that a congregation helps to fill that loss, but we have built walls around ourselves, and in the end, enhanced loneliness, not the kind of feeling that brings people to congregations. So
Oh,
before we began, this is Cheryl knows
oh,
this, and Felice talked to everybody. But this is Abraham's tent.
I love that.
So what's important about Abraham's tent?
Wow, it is so wide open.
It is open on four sides. Why is it
Yes.
open on four sides?
That way he's able to see every direction.
Yeah,
He can
yeah,
see
exactly.
every direction.
Yeah,
Yes, I love that.
exactly. He's able to see in every direction. Excuse me, there are rockets falling near Ashkelon.
Oh,
That's what
Oh,
that alarm
ooh,
is.
mm.
So he can see in every direction. And why did Abraham want to see in every direction?
So he could
He
welcome
was
guests.
So
he
he
was
could
seeking
see some guests. That's what
seeking
this is
out the
over here, the
strangers.
far left here. See some guests. And when he saw guests, what did he do?
ran out.
He
Yeah.
ran out to take him by the
So
hand. Yep.
let's take a look
Yeah.
at the 18th chapter of Genesis. I put this here to remind you it's originally in the Hebrew, but let's read the English. It says, the Lord appeared to him, Abraham, by the terebinths, by the oak trees of the place called Mamre, as he, Abraham, sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. Anybody know what's at the end of chapter 17, right before this verse? I could have put it in.
He got
Uh,
circumcised,
He was circumcised. How old was he?
oh gosh.
90 something.
90
Yeah.
something years old. Okay.
Yeah.
So he wasn't feeling well. Yeah, and by the way, this is thought to be one of the texts that tells us since God visited Abraham when Abraham was sick, and we are created in the image of God,
Oh,
we have an obligation to visit people who are sick as well and never leave them alone either. And let them know
Don't pay it
we're
forward.
thinking of them. So
Wow.
Abraham, over here, the second next line, Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, three men stood over against stood not too far away. And when he, Abraham, saw them, these three men, he ran to meet them from the tent door,
Mm-hmm.
bowed down to the earth. So when a person comes to the synagogue, a person perhaps we don't know, a person who hasn't been there often, perhaps a stranger from out of town who's made his or her way to the sanctuary, to the building, to the sanctuary of the temple. What are we supposed to do?
Reach out to them.
Reach out to them, run
Yes.
to meet them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
run to
Yes.
meet them. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you have to bow down to the earth, but you could
Yep.
say hello, or you could, and so
Yeah.
on. But don't wait. In a little bit, we'll meet somebody, a rabbi named Yochanan ben Zakkai, who has more to say about that. So he said to them, okay, my lords, by the way, they turn out to be angels and representing God, and some would say that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My lord, if I, Abraham, have now found favor in your sight, don't go away, don't continue on your road. I pray thee, I beg thee, I ask thee from thy servant, that let me now get some water and wash your feet. By the way, the Pope does that right before Easter and so on, but that's a way to make someone feel good and comfortable. You may have days when you'd like to come home, take off your shoes, and wash your feet as well. I don't know that anybody here would have anybody else do it for you, but Abraham was going to do that. And recline yourselves, make yourselves comfortable under the tree, under this tree. And I will fetch a morsel. How much is a morsel? A
Ah.
little piece of bread, and
Mm.
stay your heart and relax a little bit. And after that, you can go on. For that's the reason you come to your servant, to allow me to express my hospitality. And so they said, do as you have said. And so Abraham ran to the tent to his wife Sarah and said, now here, great, Sarah's in the tent cooking, and this does not necessarily express the values that we're so comfortable with, but make ready 3 measures of fine meal, eat it, and make cakes. And then Abraham ran to the herd, fetched a calf, tender and good, gave it to the servant, and the servant dressed it, butchered it, and so on. And then Abraham took curd, like cottage cheese and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. So wait a second. What did Abraham offer them?
Yeah.
A
I
morsel of bread.
yeah.
What did Abraham give them?
Oh,
banquet.
goodness. A
Oh,
banquet, yeah.
banquet. But
So,
but I'm
yeah.
curious about the milk and the meat.
Yeah.
Aha. Very good. Well,
Yes.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Now, there are two answers. The rabbis, so this is not mine. This is 2,000 years ago, they were concerned about that as well. A, you can have dairy before you eat meat, and you need not wait. Some authorities say you can wash your milk because supposedly, at least in ancient medical terms, it's quickly digested and passes away. Some would say you should rinse your mouth out with water, and then you could eat meat. So the dairy comes first,
Oh.
and the meat. The other answer is this is only chapter 18 in Genesis. The laws of keeping kosher don't appear until Exodus and Leviticus.
Hmm.
But it's an interesting look at how things operated in the time of Abraham, though. You're absolutely correct. So he promises them a little, and he shows up with a lot. You have to be the judge. If someone new walks into the sanctuary and you say, run, you run to them, you welcome them, and so on. Do you want to talk about all the best features of the temple? Or do you want to play at that lower expectations and have it deliver something that's really good and wonderful?
Yes.
Abraham's plan was to keep expectations low, just going to bring you a
Yep.
few crumbs and then deliver.
Offer a wonderful meal.
So that's something you need to decide. But
Mm-hmm.
while they eat, what does Abraham do? He stands by them. Often we meet somebody coming into the synagogue, into the sanctuary, greet them and so on, and sort of send them to go sit one place and we go another place.
Mm.
An effective houses of worship. By the way, this is true in churches as well, and there's a lot of literature there are books about this in churches. Ideally, why don't you go sit with them? After
Mm-hmm.
all, they're not going to be sure what book we use, and
Right.
if it open
Yeah.
the wrong way, and what are
Mm-hmm.
the funny squiggly lines, and what's being sung up on the bema, and what do we do? If you sit next to them, you can be
Mm-hmm.
a resource to them.
Maybe
Yes.
they're
Yes.
gonna think that it's strange. Like, what is this person doing here?
By the way, you have to judge that. By the way, some people want to be alone. All too often, someone suffered a terrible loss. A loved one died,
Mm.
for example, or
Mm.
some other tragedy befell them, and they'd rather sit alone. For this, you need to have a sixth sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this in front of you. I thought we might have a larger group and there might be people, but you who have chosen to be here tonight have to make an important decision that we'll get to later. There are some people in every congregation, not just the temple, who probably should not be greeting new people.
True.
Some
Right.
people don't have that sixth sense.
Right.
Some
True.
people want to spend all their time talking about themselves, which
Mhm.
guest doesn't want to hear.
Not
Some
good.
people are not good listeners. Some
That's
Mm.
people
right.
are angry. Some people tend to have had a rough week and they want to take it out on somebody in the synagogue. You have to make that decision. So it takes a
Mm.
sixth sense, Jill. You're absolutely right to decide, and it'll be more than this. But this time we need to use our sixth sense to decide: do they want to be alone, or would they like some help?
Mm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
these people visiting Abraham, the three men, the angels, ate. But to our guests, they're going to quote unquote consume that which happens in the sanctuary of the temple. So now let me introduce you to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was a historical person. I wouldn't say that about everybody, by the way. He's from the 1st century CE, a later contemporary of Jesus, by the way.
Mm.
If you believe Jesus existed, and that's another story. Anyway, this is a depiction of him near where he's buried near Tiberias in northern Israel. And Rabbi Yochanan, the reason I tell you about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai because the Talmud tells us he never permitted anyone to greet him first.
Wow.
What does that mean?
That's part of what you taught us way back. What year was that? 2 or 3, 4 years ago.
You, all of us, by the way, and I have to work on this as well, all of us need to greet and say hello to the other person before they get a chance to greet us. Right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if we're competing, if we're rushing to be the first to greet, by the way, if you think about this, that means no one will come into our sanctuary and not be greeted by someone. And it's all our job to greet each person. And you'll notice, by the way, what I did a little bit beforehand, and we'll talk about this. I might be too intrusive, but you might want to ask them where they're from. Maybe you have a friend, somebody else from the same place. So
Yes.
I'm from Cleveland. Oh, well, I happen to know that Joe Schwartz is from Cleveland, so let me introduce him and see if they, often they know people in common. I have had the opportunity to introduce people in sanctuaries who had something in common, and it turned out they were related to one. They were distant cousins of one another.
Yes.
So it's a
Yes.
fascinating to rush to them, greet them, and
Yes.
this is even
This
for
might
people
be
who
a
don't
strange
wait.
comment, but
Jill, go ahead.
yeah, so so we're trying to greet people that are new to us, and then someone you know comes in and wants to say hi to you. So then you're kind of like, what do I do? You have to make a choice.
You have to turn. Excuse me, there's another missile alarm, I'm afraid. Again, it takes the sixth sense to be able to negotiate that. But you need to turn to the person, the new person, and say, excuse me just a second. And actually, that's a wonderful opportunity to introduce the new person to the
Yes.
person who wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
If you are good at this, and this comes from Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote The Tipping Point and several other books along this line, once you greet this new person and you find somebody else, there's another alarm.
How
I
sad.
apologize, but we all need to know. Turn that off if you'd like. So you can meet people and then hand them off to someone else who will spend some time talking to them.
Oh, okay.
Now, I want to tell you something about having a rabbi and a cantor and so on. Everybody who comes wants to talk to the rabbi and the cantor. Can the rabbi and the cantor talk to everybody? Not always. So one of the things that someone or all of us need to do, if we can, is be sensitive if the rabbi is talking to someone, go over to the person with whom he's speaking. Introduce yourself and sort of guide them away from the rabbi so the rabbi can go and talk to somebody else. Or the cantor, or there may be someone, it may be you that 6 people want to talk to. When one of us sees that there are 6 people trying to talk to Felice or Cheryl or Jill or Ellen, that perhaps we can draw some of them away, engage them in some conversation, and keep them so that this will flow and more people will meet more people and no one will monopolize anyone else's time.
Merrill,
Okay.
that's a fabulous idea. I have a question. That is, would it be a good idea first to clue in the cantor or the rabbi that that's what we're going to do? So that
Not necessarily, and I'll tell you why.
okay.
Let the cantor and the rabbi think you're going to bring them a morsel of bread. And when you help them encounter and talk to more people, they're going to say, "Wow, I've got a piece of beef from a calf that's tender and young, and curds and milk." And so on.
Got it.
And
Got
so, believe it or not, and they may not be aware and they may not be able to articulate it. We have to cut our professional. I'm biased. I'm a synagogue professional, but they will be deeply in your debt, even if they don't fully express it.
Thank you. That's cool. I just was thinking
Yes.
maybe they want to talk to that person.
By the way, I think you'll once again, you have to watch people's cues.
Sure.
Yes.
By the way, you also have to remember that 80% of all the communication that will go on between any of you, the rabbi, you and me, and so on, is nonverbal.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
A hand, just
Just
even a hand.
writing down, maybe
Yeah.
working with the membership committee
Jill
on,
again, Sam?
I said I was just writing down, maybe working with the membership committee or Cheryl's welcoming group on understanding body language.
Very
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Very,
Uh-huh.
very,
That's what I've done. That's what I've done over the
yes.
years.
And
How
by
do
the way,
I?
most of us know this. What you need to help
Uh-huh.
do is to apply it to this situation. I would also be careful. You'll see this again. Whose job is it to welcome people into the sanctuary?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Not
Yes.
the membership committee. It's not us. It's not the rabbi, the
Right.
cantor, not Ellen. It's not. We are all responsible. We are all descendants of Abraham.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
all our responsibility. So when there's a
Uh-huh.
membership
Yeah.
committee, I think it's wonderful, by the way, that somebody's worried about this and their membership
Uh-huh.
committee is concerned about this.
Um,
But we can't ever say, "Oh, that's the membership committee's job." It's all our job.
okay.
In effect, the
Uh-huh.
membership committee is every person in the congregation.
Mm-hmm.
All of us have to be concerned about that.
Yes.
So, and this takes practice, and people will make mistakes and get right. But if we keep reminding people over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask how many of us are sick of Geico commercials or Progressive commercials, and they keep saying same commercial over and over and over again. Isn't that enough already? Unfortunately,
Practice, practice,
we have to
practice.
repeat this and say we need to express hospitality. We need to make everyone feel welcome and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
We need to create a situation where people will say, you know what, I enjoyed that. I'll come back next Friday night or 2 Friday nights, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to a sisterhood function or a brotherhood breakfast or something like that, because everyone seems so nice and very important.
How do we get that message to the larger number of people?
Okay, I don't know. That's a question of synagogue leadership. Some of them are sensitive to it, some are not. Some meeting people and greeting people, Felice, is a retail business, not a wholesale business. So, Felice, if
Mm.
you would find one person
Yes.
and say, let me help that person cultivate the skills of welcoming people into our sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And when they got it, then tell that one person,
Ah,
friend, you go recruit another person. And then you
Yes.
go and recruit another person.
Right.
And
Uh-huh.
slowly, one by one. So this is not the work of a week or a month.
it's
Or
Right.
forever.
It's years.
it takes years and years.
Mm-hmm.
I promised myself I wouldn't talk about congregations that are in and around Jacksonville. But you guys are doing pretty well. But there are some congregations that just don't get this.
Really.
And you get it well, but it takes work. You have
Mm-hmm.
to.
Consistency.
I also
It's
think that,
mm-hmm.
maybe Felice, I don't know if you're a writer, but write an article or for the Temple Times or for
What a
the.
great idea.
Yeah. By the way,
Mm.
I would urge you to simply write an article. I once welcomed somebody into the congregation and felt it made me feel good that I welcomed this person and I made a new friend and we chat from time to time or whatever. And it doesn't have to be your best buddy with whom you play mahjong or canasta or poker or whatever
Mm.
with, or go on trips with you. Don't have to take a cruise with them. But I felt good because I pay people home. And that it's called the literature of success. I
Mm.
had success. And I wouldn't say maybe somebody ought to write an article for that. And this maybe the membership committee coordinate this. There ought to be an article in every single bulletin that
The
something
connection.
police. And by the way, you can write
Mm-hmm.
anonymously if you want. Use my name. I don't care. But just say, I did this and I felt good.
Mm-hmm.
And thus the reader will say, maybe I can get that same good feeling. And at the same time, do something good for our congregation.
That's
It
so
is a,
great. That's so much better than saying you
yeah,
should do this and you should do that.
yeah.
Do not do, this is the
Mm,
synagogue world. Do not tell anybody what to do.
That's
right.
right. The bunch of
Okay?
Yeah.
Jewish people.
Don't
That's
ever tell anybody what to do.
that's
Right.
a great idea. I felt so good. I was a little
Uh-huh.
shy, but I decided to reach out and it made me feel so happy.
Exactly. Tell what I, and for those of us again who have had children, it's hard to unlearn the don't tell anybody what to do.
Right.
Okay?
It's
On
it's a
committees,
wonderful,
on the board,
mm-hmm,
lead by example.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Lead by example. You know, I'm a
It's
long
a
way.
one,
I'm a
mm-hmm.
long way
Go
from
ahead.
middle school. Some of you have been in middle school much more recently than I, but occasionally we all were sitting in this big cafeteria, and we would decide at a table, okay, we're all going to point to the ceiling and look up. And so we pointed to the ceiling and looked up, and lo and behold, the people at the next table, so they started to. And they start, and everybody started to look up. Why? Because people take their cues from other people. And how do I behave here? Well, this is the way I behave.
Yeah,
And
you
so
know,
they're going to see you run to greet guests, and they'll say, "Oh, I guess
Yeah.
I should be doing the same thing."
it just made me think of something,
Please,
and
Jill.
I keep saying Cheryl because she's our hostess with the mostest. But
She is. I agree.
if there's like you know, when we greet people, and if there's a new family or a new couple or a new person, maybe go up to who's a regular and say, hey, make sure you say hello to that person if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Like kind of bookend it.
Uh-huh.
Just like have in your mind 15 of us who would be more than happy to do that
Yeah.
when we start having onegs again.
Right. You
Yeah.
understand that, Jill. By the way, keep I have a friend who calls it a Rolodex in your head, again, where people are from, the people you know, the regulars of the congregation, perhaps
Mm-hmm.
what their profession is,
Mm.
their hobbies. And then when you start to quote unquote chat up a new person and they have
Mm-hmm.
the same hobbies, so, oh, you're going to want to meet so and so. Or, oh,
Yes.
you're from
Yes.
Cleveland. So is Jack
Yeah.
Lowe from Cleveland. Let me introduce you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that
You're a
that
happened.
is so,
pediatrician. Joe is a
it,
pediatrician.
you know,
When
it's
Eleanor
amazing.
Wait,
introduced,
Cheryl and then Jill. Let's.
Yeah. That is it's so much like what that I promote when I'm at the front door. When there's someone new that comes in, I don't recognize them, and the first thing I do is it's like I'm just attached to them. So start
Exactly.
talking and asking where they're from, and it's interesting how sometimes individuals, the women, the older women. I said, by the way, do you play mahjong? And you'd be surprised the number of people that will automatically connect with this individual. And so it's always good to have a few clusters of people in the foyer when you're having new people coming in or anyone coming in, because there's your connections. It was just like it was actually mahjong. And this one lady, Joyce Trowcott, she was brand new. And she says, I love to play mahjong. I said, oh my goodness. And here came Sheila, and here came Ann Stone. And before you know it, she was already connected to a whole cluster of her favorite thing to do. So just taking a few moments with Joyce and finding out where she was from, Tennessee, and what she liked to do. So major connections take place just at a brief moment.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
let me respond to Cheryl before we go to Jill. And Jill, you're next. But Cheryl's at the front door greeting people. So all of a sudden there's another person passing by and so on. We need to support her and take the person from, Cheryl will introduce us to that person, then take that, and so on. That's number one. Number two, think about what a synagogue is or is supposed to be. And I don't care much about mahjong on the one hand. On the other hand, if it's mahjong that brings a person into a situation where they can connect with their spiritual identity, where they can learn something about their heritage, where they can feel closer to other Jews, that makes mahjong worth millions. And I have another, you know what? All right. Elise, remind me you're from Atlantic City, and I'll tell more about that. But let's go to Jill first. Jill, what were you going to say?
So Ron Ellenoff, when Harvey Levin first moved back to the community, Ron Ellenoff
Sure.
knew he was from Pittsburgh originally and introduced him to my husband. And they had never met before, but they went to the same high school.
That's
Wow.
out.
And, they've been hanging out ever since. So it's nice.
Perfect example.
Mhm.
And they may have had the same teachers, it turns out, and may have, remember somebody had bad breath or somebody had whatever, and remember the backyard of the football field. Who knows how many members they share? And that's, by the way, what's the SYN of a synagogue? Like synthesize. It's to bring Ron Ellenoff, and I don't know your husband's name, Jill, but it's to bring them together. And I wonder whether Ron is is he a retired dentist, if I recall?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I wonder if there are other dentists with whom they, and so on. So I need to tell you just for a second, Felice, about Mark Rosenberg.
Okay.
Mark Rosenberg was at Fort Dix and got Yom Kippur off and went to Atlantic City and went to the synagogue at Atlantic City. And even in uniform, they wouldn't let him in. He didn't have a ticket.
Oy vey.
Oh.
Very friendly. And so he walked down the street, and there was a Baptist church, and they welcomed him with open arms.
Yep.
Mark Rosenberg went on to be the CEO of something called Zion's Hope. Zion's Hope owns the Holy Land Experience theme park in Orlando.
Wow.
And his goal now is to convert Jews to Christianity
Isn't
because
that
the
something?
synagogue was not hospitable. So you remember when we want people to feel connected quickly.
Absolutely.
If it's
Wow.
mahjong, if
Yep.
it's bowling, if it's
Yep.
kanaka, if it's needlework, if it's whatever it is, or if it's a book club or something, let's bring them closer. Ultimately,
Yes. Yep.
and this is me, you don't have to agree with me, it gives us an opportunity to connect them to their Judaism, and
Mhm.
that's worth millions.
That
Yep.
is so beautiful,
That's
Marilyn.
it.
I would like to
Mhm.
share something, if I
Yeah.
may. I know that synagogue. Yeah,
Look, we all know synagogues that turn away
yeah.
people. You want a ticket? Sorry, you're not,
So sad. But
Mm.
but I
that's not the way it was. My parents lived in Boca Raton for many years, and when I would go there on Shabbos, I would walk to down 18th Street. It's not important, across Power Line Road to
I know the area. Yeah.
okay, that said on the front, Florida's friendliest synagogue. And so I walked in. There was nobody to greet me, nobody to give me a cigar.
Oh, gee.
Oh no.
Behind these doors was a sanctuary. So I opened the door, and there's the sanctuary. And there is a little sign, several little signs that say, the permanent pews are reserved for congregants only until.
Oy, oy, oy.
I said, this is the friendliest congregation in
Oh
Florida.
no.
I'm sorry, we can all do a lot better.
That's so
You know what's
sad.
so sad nowadays is that, we fear people we don't know. We have police outside all the
Yeah,
time.
by the way, out of necessity, by the way, I have found that the officer, whenever I've come to the synagogue, the officer is very friendly and welcoming.
Yes.
Friendly.
And
Yes.
perhaps a
Great
member of the congregation should stand there with him
Yes.
and
Mhm.
greeting people as well and say,
Yeah.
welcome. I wouldn't
Mhm.
expect the officer to say good Shabbos, although I have met non-Jewish officers who say good Shabbos and will throw around a
Well,
few.
one of them is Jewish, and actually he got so enamored again with being around Jewish people. He had
Ah.
actually signed up for an interfaith trip that was supposed to happen,
Ah.
pre-COVID.
Right.
So anyway, I thought that was
Oh.
That's exactly, those are the
Mm.
kind of connections, they're invaluable.
Oh,
Absolutely.
nice.
Yeah.
So as you see, every member of the temple is a host. We're all hosts of those people. Visitors are primarily the responsibility of each of us as individuals, not the congregation, not the membership,
Mm.
not the hospitality committee. All of us have to. Okay?
Yeah.
So the most important person for a visitor to talk to in order to feel at home in the synagogue is you, not the rabbi, although you'd like to take them to meet the rabbi and Pay them to
Mhm.
meet the rabbi, but stay there so you can pull them away from the rabbi if the rabbi is looking like, I need to talk to 20 other people. It's not the cantor, it's not the official greeter at the door like Cheryl, but the person who comes there regularly. Yeah. It's when just know that in Hebrew it's called Amcha, you, the people, the people. We, the people, are there to greet, not the officials, and it's nobody else's job. It's our job, each of us as individuals. And by the way,
Mhm.
the board, members of committees of the congregation need to be reminded of that all the time. And by the way, it gets them out to services, but say, we need you to help greet new people. We really do.
Mhm.
Okay,
Smile
so
at her.
guess
I
what?
have one more. I have
Please,
one more
Jill.
story.
Go ahead, Jill. By the way, Jill, you don't have to raise your hand, but okay, it's fine.
You're so
So there
nice.
was I joined the membership committee, and there's a young man on the committee. So I thought he was very interesting and he had some good ideas. So in between the meeting or after the last meeting, I just said, I'd love to talk to you more. I called it. And it dawned on me that I had met him because he and his fiance, now wife, had come in. They were new in town and they were sitting behind me and my husband, Paul. And we started talking to them, and they were young and new, and they were going to get married in a year or whatever. And I was like, I met you. And if I hadn't, turned around and talked to them because they were new, and of course they're young, and everybody, we want to get more younger people involved. Have that mindset. I'm not saying I'm the one who made him feel welcome, but I think
No, you can
know,
say it. You can say it.
it builds upon that. So it's just kind of
Absolutely.
nice. And of course, he didn't remember meeting me, but I remember meeting him.
And that's perfect. And right,
Mhm.
somebody sitting behind you, you don't need to, you do need to talk to them. And you did
Yeah.
talk to them. And it paid off. And Jill, you should write the first article for the next bulletin about
Yeah.
your experience and just, all I did was, talk to somebody and it meant the world. By the way,
That's
it
right.
meant the world to
Mhm.
them as well. They didn't have to join the temple. They didn't have to be part of this community. They could have
True.
gone to other places. And the fact that you were concerned and chatted with them made all the difference in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
And there are so many people who go to congregations and then leave and nobody said hello.
Not
Yes.
good.
Nobody got their name.
That's
Nobody
not.
seemed to
Yeah.
care whether they were there or not.
Merrill,
Mm.
it happened to me years ago. I'll never forget it. Years ago, I was in Phoenix, Arizona on business, and I was happy that there was a Friday night free, and I made, in those days, it was the yellow pages. There were no, I mean, the phone didn't show you stuff. There were no phones. There was no cell phone either. So I'm in the yellow pages, and I called the synagogue, and the woman was so wonderful on the phone, the woman who worked in the office, and she told me about how great everything was. I'm going to be brief because I have one more thing I would like your advice on.
Okay.
But anyway, she sold it to me, so I went, and nobody even met my eyes. It was terrible, and I remember thinking, "Boy, are they lucky I'm not moving to town because I wouldn't go near this place."
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. There are places that are just
Mm.
not friendly.
it's so
And,
sad.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your comments about this, though. Occasionally, I attend church with friends of mine,
yeah.
just to be supportive. I'm 100 million% Jewish, but and one time it was a beautiful experience where and during the service, I asked everybody who was a visitor or new there to stand. And they spent a moment, and the congregation just got up, and everybody walked around shaking their hand and saying hello to them. And then after, they had their version of an oneg, which people would come up to me and say something like, "Can I get you something?" And it was really beautiful.
They
And
know
so,
it
yeah.
sounds Episcopal to me because I also deal with an Episcopal church. I actually teach at an Episcopal church, and sometimes they have me come on. Sometimes I actually preach on Sunday. That's exactly
Wow.
what they do, and they meet it. Now, there are, and this is something you need to think about and decide if the rabbi is comfortable with it, and so on. You can ask anybody who's new, please stand. But the
Mhm.
truth of the matter is, we all better know our congregation enough to know who's new. Without that, some
Uh,
Mm. Yeah.
listeners don't want to call attention to themselves. Some
yes.
Mm.
feel very uncomfortable. By the
Mhm.
way, some congregations have an Oneg Shabbat where they have blue cups and red cups. They say, if you're new to the congregation or would like to learn more, pick up a red cup and we'll find you holding a red cup. But that we ought to know our congregation well enough to know who's
Yes.
new and who's not.
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
That takes work, but it's a possibility.
Mhm.
There are ideas that have to be batted around. We have to deliberate. And I'm not saying there's a right way and a wrong way. Everyone needs to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sometimes people come for yard site and they kind of come in and then they leave real quick.
Yep.
And I don't know,
Mm.
they come once a year and they don't want to engage. So
Uh,
but we're working on
Mm.
strategies to reach.
Well, let's not talk about strategy yet. Let's talk about why they just come in as soon as Warner Scottish is done. They hit the door and they leave. Why?
They don't know anybody.
Okay.
No, maybe because
Perhaps-
that's all
yeah.
they came in for.
Okay, that's what they came in for. By the way, and this is another area beyond our scope. A synagogue is not a commercial endeavor. They are not, those people are not customers who get what they want and leave, pay for it and leave or whatever. We are a community. We are a family who decides to support our building and our professionals and all our needs by kicking in dues together. We're not selling anything. We are not a commercial endeavor. But most of us come from the commercial world, and I grew up in a family. My parents were in the paint and wallpaper business, where you sell something and you buy something. That's not what we're about. So there are some people who see us as a commercial endeavor. I'll go in, say Kaddish, I got what I came for, I'm leaving, just as much as you go to Target and say, I came for some conditioner, got it, and I left, and so on. We need to work on those people and introduce ourselves, find out their names, and so on, so that we can be in contact with them later or welcome and so on. We want to be more than a place where you just stop in. We want to be more than show my age, I call it a filling station, where I zip in, pay for a tank of gas, and pay,
Yeah.
swipe your credit
I
card
remember that
and leave.
term.
That's not the kind of connection we want. We want a deeper connection. I would wager, and you can challenge me on this, that they too are looking for a deeper connection.
Mhm.
They too are, and if they thought about the person for whom
Mhm.
they're saying Kaddish, and what that
Mm.
person wants them, and what the meaning of Kaddish really is. By the way, Kaddish is to be said in a community. That's why we don't say it alone. You come to the synagogue, it's said to be in a community of friends. One of the most important things you can do in a synagogue, aside from being hospitable, is when they say Yiskadav, Yiskadash, Shemei Rabbah, the whole, I don't know that person. I don't know this person's mother for whom you're saying Kaddish.
Mm.
We
Mm.
say Amen together with one voice. Okay?
Ah.
We are there for you in this your time of need. When you think about a
Okay.
loved one, it's time to think about things that
Mm.
are not just
Yeah.
transient, but we want to make a personal connection.
Mm.
By the
An
way,
interesting.
we're gonna fail. Jill, I'll get that in a second. We're gonna fail to catch everybody, to win everybody over, and so on. But our batting average is going to increase every year, and we're going to do better.
Right.
We're not going to please everybody. We're not going to make everybody happy. We're not going to, and some people just don't want to be friendly. That's okay. We have to do our best. Jill, you were going to say?
Well, I was thinking that for people who want Kaddish for their loved ones' names to be read, we know in advance whose names that we have that we're saying Kaddish for this week. So I wonder if we can call people and just say, I understand there's Kaddish for your grandmother Rose this week. Are you going to be able to join us? If so, I'd love to meet you in person. And if not, please know we're thinking of you. Something like that.
Exactly. Now, in my days, and I've actually convinced a colleague of mine in Ormond Beach to do this as well. When so-and-so had yard site, on the Friday before, we would send out a letter. It says,
Yep.
next Friday night, your loved one's name is good. We so admire and honor you for maintaining that connection with the generations, that love and the connection that transcends the grave. That we're excited to have you. You're being here to say Kaddish for your mother or your father or your brother or, God forbid, your child. raises all us to a higher spiritual plane. Therefore, we'd like to welcome you. Now, what I would do, and this is up to the rabbi and who had setting up the service, we used to have people read English responsive readings, often from their seats. We were relatively small. I don't know how many people come on a typical Friday evening, but we'll ask, Ben Rappaport, we admire you so much that you do this in a letter beforehand or an email. Ben Rappaport, we so admire you for maintaining the connection across the generations, remembering your father. You do so much to us. Won't you honor us on Friday night by coming and reading the responsive reading of the translation of Psalm 95 on page 202 in our prayer book? And he might not answer, but at least he feels that we want him there.
Yeah.
And that his presence saying Kaddish is something we admire, because we all know how many people's loved ones' yahrzeit go by and they don't care. They just they blow it off and so on. So someone who's already willing to remember their yahrzeit, enough to put it on a synagogue list, enough to have the name mentioned from the bima on Friday night, that person's already got something special in them. You know what? You ask the wrong person to do this. I'm a rabbi, I'm a clergyman, and once I get started, I'll talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
We love it. We can't get enough.
Absolutely.
We believe
talking.
that in each side of each Jew, there's something called a pintala yid, a little Jewish flame within us. And our job is to fan and feed that flame so it gets bigger and bigger. So a little flame glowed in the person who ran in, came to services late, recited Kaddish, and ran away. Our job is to put a little extra fuel on the fire, to fan it a little bit, to make that flame even bigger and brighter and more meaningful. And by the way, they have a thirst for meaning in their lives as well. And they also recognize that one day they're going to die and somebody's going to say Kaddish for them, the same way that they have a community. It's a wonderful thing to have Ben Rappaport's father's name read and him say Kaddish, but even more wonderful if people remember Ben Rappaport's father and he's in that community, and that we go from generation to generation. That we want to change ourselves from a congregation to a family. Okay, we don't want to be a congregation. We want to be a family. We want to be your mishpacha, your family. Okay, I mean,
Wonderful.
Think about that as our goal. So I got to smile at everybody. So by the way, when you think about who's suitable to greet and who's not, if somebody's had a horrible day, got yelled at the office, or has been fielding complaints all day in their store or whatever, and are growling, and their blood pressure seems to be 250 over 125, that person, we have to watch for that person and not
decide. Yeah, right.
Somebody who can smile. We need to look people in the eye. We so often are so casual about our conversations. We don't pay attention. By the way, much of this is true not just for the synagogue world, but in our own personal, interpersonal lives. We need to smile. We need to say, I am furious with you. I'd like to wring your neck right now, but I'm so glad you're part of my life. And that you bring me such joy, even if I want to wring your neck right now.
That's funny. Yeah.
Now that the mask mandate's starting to go away, people can see us smile.
Absolutely. Think of what they've done. By the way, we know that people, this is the purpose of putting Psalms at the beginning of the Friday night service before we recite Baruch Hu, even in ancient times, even well before the time of Jesus, there was recognition that we have to change people to get ready to pray. When we go to the supermarket, we prepare by looking in the pantry, looking at the refrigerator, what do we need, and so on. When we go to a concert, we look at what we prepare. When we go to a football game or baseball, we look who the players are, remember the numbers, maybe it's their statistics. When we go to do anything, we do a little preparation. What preparation do we do to commune with God? Not too much. And if you think about it,
Wow.
okay, if you've driven San Jose Boulevard at times, it's a man, it was a struggle getting here. And then it was a struggle finding a parking place. And by the way, before that, there was a struggle getting ready and in the bathroom, and particularly if I had the kids and they were fighting over the hairbrush and everybody was yelling and screaming. Then they walk through the door and we expect them to turn on a switch and be ready to encounter God. Not so easy. And so it's our job to help them make that transition from struggling on San Jose Boulevard at the Fighter Parking Place and all this stuff into a place where they are in the mindset to turn their hearts and souls to prayer. Commune with each other.
Yes.
Okay, so this is Yochanan Ben Sakkai's slide. I'm not going to get to all this. We've exhausted our time together.
Oh.
But again, you have to take the initiative. Don't wait for anybody to talk to you. Jill didn't wait for the couple behind to say something to them. Jill turned around and spoke to them.
It's wonderful. Yes.
If you can, and I'm terrible at this, people's names have, because by the way, if they come back a second time and you remember their name, believe me, they're going to remember you. Now, I grew up in the world of a conservative synagogue but I would devote my whole Shabbos to trying to remember a few names so that when Havdalah came and it was dark on Saturday night, I could write down the details. And man, if I could catch an email address and somehow remember it, or a street address or any details about them. And actually in the synagogue world, I kept a file of prospective members. Anybody who came, we want to bring them closer. And particularly in the era of email, if I can find this person's email address, I can invite them to every brotherhood breakfast, every sisterhood event, every whatever we're doing. It's free. And every time they get an email, it says, oh, these people are interested in me. And I'm glad for that. And that makes an important impression. Now, there are in your congregation, I happen to know, huggers. Okay?
Oh.
We all see that as a good thing. And when COVID-19 is over, by the way, again, I teach this weekly class in the Episcopal Church, and we've been doing it on Zoom. When we get back together, I said, you're all going to have to suffer through a hug from me. However, more so than when any of us were growing up, hugging, touching, and so on is a real problem. After the COVID-19 thing is over, shake a hand, pat a person on the back. Don't invade their space.
Yeah.
True. Right.
Don't invade their space. We salespeople and waiters and waitresses get a little too close. Be sensitive to that. And here
Yes.
too, some people are not suitable to be greeters, but that's it.
Right. That's true.
So do what you can to learn about your guests. It's better to express interest in them than to try to say,
Yes.
oh, the temple is great. We have such activities. Our rabbi is fabulous. Every Monday and Thursday, our rabbi goes up to heaven to sit down with God and so on. The truth of the matter is, we want to sell the temple. The temple will sell itself. We need to find out more about that. That information is important. And if we can somehow remember it so that we can recall it next time, that'd be a great thing. By the way, some membership committees or groups of greeters get together on Sunday or Monday and say, okay, let's write down all the people who were here, even if we don't know their names. Oh, the guy with the gray shirt and the guy with the striped pants and the check jacket or something along those lines, and so on, just to say, let's go over this and see how we can approach these people.
A recap.
Yeah. So you need a sixth sense. Don't be too intrusive, particularly when asking questions. And this is a fight I have with my wife all the time because I want to know where everybody's from and what neighborhood, and maybe they know somebody in common, and so on and so forth. And my wife is always going, you're being a little too intrusive, and it's none of your business how old they are or where they went to college or something like that. However, if somebody went to Ohio State and somebody else went to Ohio State, or if somebody went to Ohio State, another person went to Michigan, that's oh, you're not going to want to meet Joe. Come over here because you're such rivals in football. Listening is a way to show many people who come, nobody listens to them. Particularly with people living alone these days and isolated with COVID-19. Listening shows love.
Yeah.
Children. Now, this is going to be a rabbi issue, and this may be the congregation needs to learn. You know what? Let me talk about my teacher at the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, 3080 Broadway, New York, on the Upper West Side. Okay, Max Gadushin was a professor, and he said, if you want to pray someplace quiet and orderly with neat rows and straight columns, go pray in a cemetery.
Pray in a cemetery.
The synagogue,
Yeah.
and you have to have and crying babies, crawling around toddlers, kids who are sitting in the pew, by the way, on a Friday night with a basketball in their laps or a volleyball or whatever. To me, and you're going to have to talk to Rabbi Glasser about this, that's okay. By the way, every one of those people could easily be someplace else.
Yes.
But for one reason or another, they came to spend time with.
Yes.
And kids, we get annoyed when adults behave like children. Shouldn't we be equally annoyed when children behave like adults? Children shouldn't necessarily. Children can be children, and we need to learn to be tolerant. Now, that may upset some people. Say, "Oh, it's terrible! All these unruly kids and stuff like that." By the way, they often have a very Christian idea of what the worship experience is about. Because in church, you sit quietly with your hands folded on your lap and so on. But a synagogue was never meant to be that way. Synagogue was never meant to be that way. The sanctuary should reflect life, so don't let that bother you. And every child who comes in, if they can walk up till their bar mitzvah, give them a high five. Okay, slap their hand. Okay, just there will be people who come to the temple, and this has happened often. Says the parents will say, "I don't like this place. I don't like the rabbi. The people annoy me." But you know what? My kids love it, or the kids, or the rabbi loves the kids. So I'll become part of this community, and that's important. And we need to be cognizant of that fact by all means. So let children be children. They're going to be singing and playing and whatever. Don't expect them to behave like grown-ups. When you have a visitor afterward, by the way, and that's wonderful, Felice, it's called a fellowship hour after church. We have an Oneg Shabbat. By the way, the idea of an Oneg Shabbat after Friday night services was invented by Mayim's great uncle, whose name was Chaim Nachman Bialik. Okay, Mayim Bialik. And the phrase comes from the book of Isaiah. Let's get together and talk. What kind of social lubricant is better than standing over and having food? I've been to places where they serve coffee from a silver teapot in china cups, and I've also been places where they have Publix brand soda and day-old cakes from Entenmann's. It doesn't matter. That's the time when we could all get to chat and talk and make people feel comfortable and at home.
I know for me, sometimes I don't like to go to the Oneg because I'm kind of still in that kind of quiet mode, and I'm just not in the mood to talk and kind of have a lot of noise and stuff. So I don't always stay. I stay to say hi, but I don't always stay.
Okay, so I don't know. Do you know the story?
Of nothing. So
you know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and how they were ultimately destroyed. The rabbis asked, why were they destroyed? Because they had the beds of Sodom. What were the beds of Sodom? When a stranger came to the city of Sodom, they were brought to the inn and they were put in the bed. If their feet did not touch the bottom of the bed, they don't fill it, then they put them on a rack and stretched them until they met the size of the bed. But if their feet hung over the end, then they would cut off their feet. That is, they cut the people to fit the bed. Okay? And that one size doesn't fit all. We want to cut the bed, arrange the bed to fit people. So there are some people who are not going to stay for the Oneg, and that's okay. And there are some people who are, by the way, some people are going to come late. Some people are going to leave early. We have to meet people where they are.
Right.
And everybody's different. Everybody has their preferences. By the way, Some people come to sing Adon Olam, and some people come to sing the Shema, and some people could like this tune or that tune or so on. That's fine. All the time, we're not going to be everything to everybody. But some people want to stay for an onyx, some people don't. Some people come for the, but I mean, I used to have people who would come at Mourner's Kaddish. So they would be there for announcements and then later when Adon Olam or whatever, and then come to eat at the Oneg Shabbat. You know what? That's okay too. Whatever, we get a chance to talk to them, get to know them, bring them into our family. Everybody doesn't have to be the same. Okay, so don't let new people sit alone. Go sit near them unless you sense that they don't want someone to sit them. Find out and double check, because we're all enough isolated that we don't have to be isolated in the congregation. But at the same time, some of us may be having an experience where we want to sit alone. You have to have a sixth sense and figure that out. Okay?
Yeah.
By the way, people will come and they say, we don't know what to do here. And they need to show the book. But I don't remember. Is Mishka, you use Mishkan Tefillah? Does it open from right to left or left to right? And do you read from the Torah, and do you have a Chumash? Am I in the right book? Am I in the right place? And so on. Help people. It is really a strange experience. And if someone comes and embarrasses themselves or feels ignorant or feels that they're less than the other people who are there, will they come back again?
Nope.
Okay. So we want people to have a successful experience. And so help people. By the way, some people don't know that, oh, can I sit any place? Can I sit there? And you may have encountered it as well, lots of people who are not Jewish who come, can I come to your service? You say, I don't understand the question. Why wouldn't you be able to come to our service? But there are people who don't. Can I sit on the left side? Can I sit on the right side? Can I sit in the first 10 rows? Do I have to sit in the back? Because it's just help people find a place.
Yeah.
They just don't know. Okay? By the way, they may not know what appropriate attire is, and they may come in a bathing suit and a t-shirt, but welcome them and they'll learn. But don't embarrass them, and protect them from embarrassment as well. If they're embarrassed, they won't come back.
Wow.
Be their tour guide. It's a cross-cultural experience. By the way, people worry about interfaith activities. The greeters and welcomers on a Friday night or a Saturday morning when there's services and so on often are doing more for interfaith understanding than all the formal organizations in the world put together. What I want to do, I'm not Jewish, but I want to come see the Torah. I'm no religion. Just welcome them, help them to figure out what's going on so they feel comfortable, and that you're able to answer their questions or find them somebody who can answer their questions, and they will be grateful for the experience and become a little bit more tightly bound to the temple and the temple family. Be sure to tell. You may say they sense it. To know, you can articulate. I am glad. We are glad you are here. Please come again. Be yourself. Don't be anybody else. Practice making people feel special. Be comfortable. People can sense when you're not comfortable. And that's why there are natural people like Cheryl and all of you who can make people feel welcome, and people know that. So other people who should not be good, why not? But what I'm more interested in hearing, and what this will end because I've done much too long, is that I hope to have a group of people to tell me about your worst experience visiting a synagogue. Have you had a bad experience?
Yes. Wow.
What happened, Felice?
What's my bad experience? I think that time in Phoenix, but also what happened in Tampa.
Yeah. Okay. And so I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel like anybody cared I was there.
Right. It was like I went to a performance and that was it.
By the way, and this is a rabbi issue as well, but this is not a performance. And unfortunately, the Bima is tied. It looks like a stage. I've met rabbis who made a mistake, and well, you know what, a microphone dropped, and so the show must go on, and will the audience please rise? And we sit like we're in a theater as well. That's when you go to a theater, you're passive. When you're involved in communal worship, we want you to be active.
Yeah.
That's
Mm.
great.
I was going to a synagogue in West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
My mother belonged, and the rabbi was marrying me and my husband, and he got interrupted in the middle, and then he never came back to the meeting, and he never called to reschedule. And then I had gone to that synagogue plenty of times, and I never felt welcome. I took a blue mug, nothing. And then I was like, maybe somebody could go to lunch with me or something like that. And he said, why don't you look in the directory and call somebody? So
Yeah.
even if I had stayed in that area, I don't think I would have joined.
And that's, they don't care whether they wouldn't miss me if I disappeared off the face of the earth.
Right.
We don't want to be that place.
But he's a
We
great orator, fantastic.
By the way, I want to assure you that if we have together in one room 9 of the greatest rabbis in the world, we do not have a minion. However, if we have 10 poor, slovenly, illiterate Jews who don't look like they belong in them, they do make a minion. Right? And so those poor, slovenly, illiterate, they are more important than 9 of the great. 10 of them is more important than 9 of the greatest. So everybody who comes in is valuable, is important, is a human being created in the image of God, is another Jew with whom we have and who has that flame that called Pintel Yid inside them. If you have any questions, if I can be of any help in this endeavor, please do not hesitate to be in touch. I'm a big partisan of congregations, synagogue life. I'm not much of a Reformed Jew. I'm a conservative Jew, and we may disagree about lots. And by the way, it's okay if we disagree. Remember, we are all brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Okay? Tell me about how you fought with your brothers and sisters. Okay?
Still.
But in the end, we all are brothers and sisters. We're all from
Merrill, we are really, really honored to have you here this evening. And Cheryl, thank you for recommending. I have a hard time saying Merrill.
Me too.
Rabbi Shapiro, Merrill. For this evening, this closes out our year, our adult education year. So you were the capstone. And I just want to thank everybody for your support and presentation on behalf of the Adult Education Committee, and especially to Ellen, make sure this all happens and works a lot of nights to do this for us. So thank you, everybody, for participating. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Merrill.
Thank you. This is a special, if I may, I just wanted to mention that this is a special time, particularly where tomorrow's Friday, Shabbat, and we're going to be opening the temple for we have a confirmation taking place. And Saturday morning, there's a bat mitzvah. So we're making sure that we have plenty of people to be available to greet at the front door, help people get to a seat, make sure if they need a book. So we're making sure that we have lots of faces available to help out and to be part of what brings congregations together.
Exactly. And thus you will let those people know how important they are to you. And by the way, those children, look at the numbers, look at the statistics. Those children are our gold, our treasure.
Yes. Merrill, thank you. Tell me your wife's name one more time. Tell me your wife's name one more time.
Robin.
Robin. R-O-B-Y-N.
Yes.
I just want to personally thank you also. This was beautiful.
You are a special self-selected group, right? You could have been doing something else. A lot of people did. It's okay. But the fact that you chose to engage on this issue makes me proud to have spent this hour and 20 minutes with
So
you.
we will all be paying it forward too. So we'll be teaching
Mm.
others.
Yes,
We're gonna
Jill.
be like
My pleasure.
train the trainers, right,
I-
lady?
Yes.
Thank you. I used to end these meetings by saying, be sure to wear a mask. I don't know if we have to do that anymore. Wash your hands, stay socially distant. Yeah, I hope everyone here is vaccinated.
Mhm.
Urge your
Yep.
friends and family to be vaccinated. And hopefully in health and happiness, we'll get together again soon.
Amen.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Beautiful.
Wow.